So we have Vicky, Caesar, and Claudia. So I wanted to introduce you. This is Grace from Bakersfield. Grace,
Hi,
you're
Grace.
the dean, right?
I was the dean of student success and counseling when we first started with Starfish, but 2 years ago I retreated back to faculty.
Oh, okay. Okay, awesome. I knew you were over in Dean, but you're right. Now that you mentioned that, I think we talked about that last time I saw you. Um, so she's from Bakersfield, and she's going to, because she's very familiar with the degree planner platform, and we saw, we had a little bit of an underwhelming conversation with Kelly, that we were going to bring those questions, those unanswered questions to her, and have her kind of show us around and hopefully address those questions that you had, those remaining questions. So if you want to just first to show them what it looks like, and then we can dive into the record side of it, that would be awesome.
Sure. This is actually a test student, so it's not real data, so you don't need to worry about cleansing this from the video. When you go into Starfish up in, I don't know if you, I am sharing, right? Okay, yeah, okay. Up in the right-hand corner, if there's a search bar, so you can just type in a student's ID number, or you can type in their name, and then if you have degree planner access, it'll show up in the menu on the left. So once you're in here, as you can see, we use this test student a lot. We have like 40 students, I want to say, that are loaded as test students. And I try to go in and like give them different criteria. Like this one, we uploaded an actual major, but they don't all have majors. But that's not connected to degree planner, so it doesn't really matter. They could have a biology major and you could build, as you can see, all kinds of different programs for them. But if I create a new program, I'm just going to do psychology. That's near and dear to my heart. And add a general ed to it. I'm going to do prior. So this is the old CSU general ed that is actually expiring. And you click build once you put the program and the general ed in there. There are actually, I'm going to go back and show you. There are additional settings as well. I don't know, but you're all admissions and records. Yeah, I don't know that this is really going to be important to admissions and records, but you can do additional settings down here, advanced settings. So if for some reason you needed to, you could have the plan start in a prior term. Degree planner is always going to start in future terms. So for whatever reason you want to see it in term by term view of it, you can. You would just have to go backwards here in advanced settings.
So that could be like, for example, Grace, if someone petitioned for graduation but didn't have an active plan, there could be a plan that's built backdated so that it reflects the actual pattern for that student with the graduation target.
Yeah, we don't typically do that with our grad checks. We leave it set to default for the future term. And when it downloads, when it builds, it just doesn't build anything in the term by term section. And we immediately just hop over to the requirements section, which I'll show you. And then the requirements section is just like Degree Works, where it lists all the general ed in a list form, and then it tells you on the right hand side, it'll check it off and tell you whether or not it's completed or not. And so that's what we do at BC. But I have seen some departments like athletes or veterans, actually, they will go backwards and look at courses that students in a term by term that they have completed. So you could. All right. So I already hit build on this. I'm going to cancel that and go back to the one I already built. So it's automatically, this is a test student, they have no data. So it's automatically going to always open to the courses tab. Our admissions and records office immediately just jumps over to requirements. This is what's the most important for them when they're doing grad checks. And it'll show you on the right hand side whether or not the student already has that course built into their plan. So if they're applying right now for a spring graduation, they'll be able to see that course is planned for spring in order for them to qualify for graduation. or if they've completed it, there'll be a green check mark. And I don't have any courses on this particular, I haven't built any records in for this student, so you can't see what that looks like. I can add one though and show you what that looks like, but it would just be a green check mark and it would say what grade they received, what term that they completed it in, and
Grace, where would we find their GPA?
so that's actually not in Degree Planner. We built them in as attributes, and we have it download or show in their overview at the bottom of the list or somewhere in the middle of the list. We can control where we have it in the list. And so it does have their GPA there, and it's in the info tab, and underneath there's like a term status section, and that's where their GPA is. But it does not pick it up here in Degree Planner. And so what we did is we built out separate attributes. So we have an attribute for transfer. We have an attribute for local GE or local degrees. So you have a lot of wiggle room with what that attribute can look like. It's really up to you.
So like if this student had less than a 2.0, would this requirement section show it like a red check mark or something? Or we wouldn't know until we looked somewhere else for their GPA?
In this section, it's not going to show what their cumulative GPA is.
Okay.
It's not going to show that they are on probation. It's not going to show any of that. But if they have not completed a course, it will not show up here. But rather, if they got below a 2.0 in a course, and that was the requirement was 2.0, like English as an example, then it would show up in the more under student records. And then it'll list up here, it'll list all of the students' records, and it'll list what grade that they completed. I can show you now that student
Do
data.
you know if this is what Bakersfield is using when they are issuing or evaluating degrees and certificates?
We do.
Okay.
We only use Degree Planner now. We do not use DegreeWorks.
Okay.
As you can see, this is an actual student. They right here, GPA overall cumulative for local courses only a 1.5. So it'll show you in here, and you can break it down and also do transfer as well. I don't have that turned on right now. And then in overview down at first term status, it gives it to you cumulative as well as by term. And then in Degree Planner, if I go to his student records, you can see all of the courses that they've taken. If it's 0 units over here on the right hand side, that means they didn't complete it successfully. So you click into it and you can see what did they withdraw from it? Did they get a D? Why do they have 0 or not? Well, D, they would have units, but did they get an F? You'll see no units.
And I also noticed, like when you clicked on the course, it shows you in the bottom left whether or not it was used to satisfy a requirement.
Yep. And this is also where you'll see transfer courses. When a student has transfer records that have already been evaluated, they will pull into here as well. And it'll say, for us, it says right after, which I believe is the same for all schools, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But for us, it'll indicate right here after the term of when they completed it, if it was a transfer record. And
well, how about substitutions, Grace? Like if they did a petition for a substitution or removal of units, how do you manipulate it in Degree Planner?
Yeah, so we actually, everyone does not have access to do that. We have a limited number of individuals that we have trained to do that. And a few ways. One, if it's for general ed, then let's say this was a transfer course that didn't articulate to our actual Art B1. So when the student completed it, it didn't actually check off any of the requirements. You actually do that through clicking the pencil icon and then adding a pseudo code, but you have to add these pseudo codes to each program set. So the administrator that is the Starfish admin that is setting up Degree Planner would have to put pseudocodes on each program set. And then every year when your catalog rolls, you have to make sure that you are checking that the pseudocodes roll with your program sets as well. I've had some that didn't, so I've had to go in and manually add them. And then once you add that code here and hit save, then it'll check off. So it'll say it was used by this particular requirement, and on the actual plan, it'll check off. And instead of saying, no, it checks off and it reads just like this: taken summer 2020 in the grade. So if you have a substitution, you would have to, for a program course, so this is their program, then you would have to do it as a waiver. And instead of it saying taken, it'll still have a green check mark, but instead of it saying taken summer 2020, it'll say waived by Grace. And then you have to go and look at that record to see why it was waived. You can add notes to the actual record. And anything you do in Degree Planner, it does not touch the student's actual record in Banner. But I love that feature of being able to come back over here to student records. You can add a course record. So if a student transferred something and it wasn't showing up correctly, I could add it here. But typically what we don't do that. Typically what we do is we use this only for waivers. But you could do the transfer. So an example, there was something wrong with our script for bringing in our transfer coursework. And one student had like 8 courses from West Hills College, but only 6 of them were showing up on their Starfish record. They were all on their transcript. They were all in Banner, but for some reason, 2 of them were being dropped off. So temporarily I could come in here and I could add that transfer record, or I could add a waiver. So you have some flexibility in here in what that looks like.
That's what I was going to ask. If it's a transfer that has no equivalency, where does it drop off? Is there like a pass-through? If you worked with DegreeWorks, you're familiar with the pass-through. Does Starfish have something like that, the Degree Planner?
So what we do, it's not, you're talking about the fall through courses at the bottom.
Fall through, yes.
Yeah. So they don't have a fall through section, but the workaround for that is to build in a requirement that is for their total degree applicable units if it's local, or transfer units if they're transferring. And so what this will do is this particular requirement will look for all courses that the student has completed that meet the transfer requirement. So if they have a transfer attribute on them in Banner and the student has completed them, they will pull in here. So it may not check off something up here, but it will check off down here, like Comp B5. This computers course does not check off any general ed requirements. It doesn't meet any of his program requirements. So you'll find it nowhere up here, but it is showing up down here in this fall through, so to speak, section. But you can't consider it a true fall through because it's not only those courses, it's all courses. That took us a little bit of time. That was definitely, I believe in transparency, that was definitely a complaint in the beginning that there was no fall through. But when we built in this, then we got used to it, and people, they really like it because they can see right away the student has only completed 41 units and they need additional units. And so it tells you need to add additional placeholders. And when you add these placeholders to the plan, it'll bring them up to those additional 19 units that they need in order to complete, and it'll put it on their term by term section. So we've gotten used to it and we really like it now, but that was hard. It's always hard when you're doing something new, when you're used to doing something a certain way.
Well, and all the classes come over in the records listing, right? We're just not seeing them in the Degree Planner, the plan view, because they're not applicable to anything. But if they click on the history, if you're wanting to see every course does come in.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Every course will. And that's a great point, because like this ActDev B55, actually, is that one a transferable? I was thinking that it wasn't transfer. No, it's not transferable. So it's not showing up here as a half a unit that student has completed, but it will show up in the student records.
Grace, how do you guys do your CSU, like your certifications, if it's incomplete or partial or full? Do you guys use Degree Planner for that?
Yeah, this is the only program that we have now. So.
Oh, like if you put the student's student ID, will a certification pop up?
No, I don't know what that looks like in
Okay.
admissions and records. I should have, in hindsight, sorry, I should have brought it along. We'll hope someone from admissions and records, so I apologize, but I don't know what that process looks like for them, but the only tool we have is Degree Planner.
Okay. Melody, I'd be curious to hear how they do their certifications, because it sounds like it can be pulled from this, like a report, which would be awesome.
But we can maybe get some screenshots, Grace. If you want to give me the contact person over there, at very least, maybe they could just send us some screenshots and explain that process, or if they're willing to jump in a Zoom with us to show us that, because that would be helpful. Mm-hmm. As far as GPAs, I know, yeah, we can pipe them through. We're already piping in the term by term GPA, but we can type in just basically all the GPAs you see in Silas profile, and that way we can even have consistent GPAs, which would be nice.
That would be nice.
Right. And then as far as my understanding is we can build them as a requirement. We can use the GPAs as a requirement, build that requirement out based on that import. I just don't know, Grace, if that's something that you've done, but I believe Sierra has that GPA requirement actually built
into Degree Planner.
Right.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that. It wasn't an option when we first started.
Oh, okay.
4 years ago, or they just weren't aware of the workaround in order to do that. But now that you're mentioning it, I might reach out to Julia.
Yeah, ask her. I think I even have a video, but
okay.
There was another, as far as access, Vicki. So just like she said, limited, of course, it's limited because of the power that you would have. So I would see it similar as to how we're handling DegreeWorks exceptions. Only your 3 evaluators, and I believe you are the only ones that have access to that. So we would follow that similar path. We'd be very strict as far as who would have access with that much power.
And it seems like Dixie would also have a different part of it as well, Melody.
She would.
Building, right? And building some of the stuff. So, yeah.
The actual programs. Now, just, and I know that that's on their side at this point, but from the instruction standpoint, of course, Dixie is very thrilled about the idea of moving to Degree Planner, just because building the programs are drag and drop, like they're drop down menus versus having to learn how to do programming in Scribe.
No.
And given if that's the direction we take locally, we could even have a conversation down the road as far as if it's easier to build programs, what that looks like. And then the last piece, there was something. As far as reporting. So are you making use of the exporter data on this, Grace?
We do have it set. I don't, but we do have it set up. Our Office of Institutional Effectiveness has pulled out all of the data, and we've used it for a few things. We've used it for what we call auto enrollment, but it was very manual enrollment. But we told the students it was auto enrollment. And what we did is we took a certain population of students. So first time in college, they've gone through orientation and they've opted in to auto enrollment. And then we build out their ed plans, and then we pulled in the ed plan. You can actually, if you're building out, see, we have our schedule in here. So they can choose, the student didn't register for like anything on their plan, but they can choose like where they want to take the course, when they want to take the course. And if they build this all out and pre-select, then we use the exporter data to pull that out and then enroll them into those courses. A few other things that they're working on is putting the export data into a data warehouse, a brand new research data warehouse that we have, but we haven't used it for anything else. The only other thing that I want to use it for that I haven't yet is to code Savamstead. So when a student completes an ed plan, or an ed plan is approved in here, it'll go push through to Savamstead that they've had a CSEP completed. But right now, the way that we're doing that is through speed notes and appointments.
Right. And we're in the process of doing that configuration too. But I like that because a counselor could check the box that they did the ed plan. It doesn't necessarily mean the ed plan was successfully completed. So going off of the actual ed plan data, I think would be stronger as far as data integrity.
Absolutely.
Do you know if the exception notes you mentioned as far as the course waivers, are those notes also something that's able to be exported?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would assume that they are, but I'm not sure. I know that just from a user's perspective, utilizing the notes here as a comment is helpful because when you go to print, so you can click add note here and put a note on the student's ed plan. And then when I go to print, the note is always going to be at the top of the plan. You don't have to go searching for it. I feel like if I remember correctly with DegreeWorks, it was hit or miss where the note would actually print or not, but it would show up here at the top.
So DegreeWorks in the latest release 505, which I think Caesar and Claudia were at the trainings. Yeah, they forgot to include that in their 505 release since the notes don't print anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
So they're pushing us to do 506 to fix that goof. So
wow.
Yeah, I know. And this lists just the plan, or does it list, or that was the course history?
Oh, so it'll start at the top. It'll tell you all of the background about the student. So it has the actual student's name and ID number on it and their email address, their program, CSU, what the status is of that particular plan. So I usually tell people right after, because we have off-track notifications turned on. You don't have to have that turned on, but BC were very daring, I guess I could say. And we turned it on for all programs. Most institutions will start with like certain programs, but we did it for everything.
You want to explain that? I don't know if they understand that off track.
Yeah, off track notification. That's why we have these red indicators here, and all the yellow indicators you typically will get if the student does not meet a prerequisite. But ours have changed because of off-track notification. So off-track shows up at the top if a student deviates from their plan in any way, whether that is they didn't enroll in a court, or this one's that they didn't successfully complete it. This one is they didn't enroll in it, right? So if they don't successfully complete it, if they don't enroll in it, if this one needs attention, I don't know what that attention is for this one, or they haven't selected a section because our registration is now open for next spring. And they haven't actually selected any of their sections. So it'll then take their approved plan and change it to a return status to alert the student that, and their counselor, if need be, you can choose how you set that up, that the student plan needs attention. And that way you can move things around and update it. So what I've advised, because typically ours go off track because the student didn't enroll in, and there's a glitch in our system that they're working on, engineering's working on. This student did take English B1B as an example, but they took a different section than the one that they had originally planned. And so Degree Planner, for whatever reason, isn't picking up that they had a different CRN. It's not swapping out the CRN. It's supposed to, and it's designed to, but in our tenant, for some reason, there's something that's blocking it and they're trying to figure out what. So a lot of our plans have gone off track when they're really not off track. So what we do is we hit approve, and after we hit approve, then we'll do the print, because then it'll show at the top that it was approved. And that's for financial aid in particular, because they're the ones that really need to see approved. All notes will show at the top, and then it'll show term by term first. Then it'll show all of the completion of the program and all of the units required, and then it'll show that requirements page. And then the last page is a schedule view. If it's during registration in particular, it'll show you when their courses are for the current term that you're printing.
And do you know if this has a freeze like DegreeWorks does?
Oh, it doesn't. I've definitely heard that complaint, but that's because we want students, that's why they have the different statuses. So if you go back to the plans, that's why they have the returned, the approved. That's why they have those statuses, because our students all have access to create their own plans. And the only time it's an official plan is if it is approved, and it can only be approved by staff. It cannot be approved by anyone else. So a counselor, an advisor, whoever has that role to approve them. So a student cannot approve it.
So when they've completed their program, how does it show? Is there a different, if it's approved, but they've completed it?
Yeah, it'll show here. This blue bar will be full for both their program and their general ed. And it won't have that's actually a great enhancement request, that once it hits 100%, there's like this that says active, one that says
completed,
plan complete.
Yeah, like if we issue the degree or the certificate, it'd be not, and they have 3 other ones, it'd be nice to know, yeah, that one's approved, but and even though they're 60, if they're 100% done, but if they haven't applied for graduation, it'll always have that. But when they do apply for graduation and we do that, it'd be nice to see finished or completed
or awarded. Yeah.
Or awarded. Yeah.
It's awarded. That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
Now, Grace, when she asked about frozen plans, I want to say you showed me that is that history though, right? That you can click and see like a plan that had been previously approved.
Yes. Thank you for that reminder. So if you go to more, there is a plan history. And then in here, it'll tell you when the plan was created. No, it doesn't tell you who created it, but it will tell you when it was created. What it will tell you is when you hit approve, it'll tell you who approved it, and it'll give you a snapshot of that approval. So if a student comes back in and changes their plan, because they can come in and change it at any time, all you have to do is go back to that plan history and click on this view snapshot, and it'll show you exactly what was approved.
So the evaluators, when they're awarding, they probably want to go in and click that approve just to generate that history and that snapshot. That would be like a frozen audit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we've kind of gotten into the practice where we hit approve at the end of all of our sessions. So whether we've made changes or not, we hit approve so that it does another snapshot and shows who was the last person who worked on that plan.
Cool. And then sometimes we have catalog rights. They'll petition for different catalog rights. And what we see, let's say they were gone from here for 3 years, but they were going to other colleges and we saw that, we will give them those prior catalog rights. How is that kind of the same as a waiver or a petition, or how do we change catalog rights here?
Yeah, degree planner, it doesn't matter. You can do it for any catalog. When you're creating the plan, it's the first thing at the top. We went all the way back to 2011. We wanted 10 years of record. And that was a fun Christmas break project for me last year.
I bet.
I built 2016 all the way back to 2011 last Christmas.
So do you guys do auto awarding, Grace?
We do auto award, and we're actually in the process of doing more auto awards right now. Starfish has what they call a completion report that they can send you. I don't know if you've used it or looked at that, but the completion report, although can be beneficial, it's a little mucky because it'll tell you all of your students going back to the beginning of time. It seems like, I think we have students in there from 1998, and it'll tell you which courses, how many units they are away from a particular degree, or if they are 0 units away from a particular degree. And so right now A&R is going through that. We just requested a new one just to refresh the data, and they're going through that report again. And they are looking at any students who are at 0 for any degree or certificate, and they are awarding them and sending them a message saying, congratulations, we can award this degree for you. Do you want to be in our program this year? Like, kind of thing.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's one of the things we have a backlog of students that haven't been awarded because they have to apply for graduation. And I'd love to see how many are at zero so that they could be, contacted and awarded. I would love that.
So Grace, so you're using the canned report, but you're looking at customizing your own. Is that what you're working on?
Yeah, we would love to. We would love to have it be able to give them some additional, you can give them some parameters, like maybe you want to look at students who have no more than 6 units away. I think ours is set at 9 units away from a degree. And so the report is just a beast. It's huge, 500,000 rows of data, because one student could have 5 or 6 rows of data because they could be close to 2 or 3 certificates and 1 or 2 degrees, right? And almost every student that is close to a degree is also close to liberal arts. So we're able to go in there and do both. It's a lot of work though. It's a lot of manual work. It'd be nice if it was automatic.
Yeah, and obviously since the data is in Exporter, Vicki, we'd probably initially start with the canned report, but then sit down and figure out, okay, well, what is it exactly you want pulled out, and then just customize it to where we're only getting what we want to look at. Mm-hmm. And then potentially auto awarding completely. I don't know how automated we want auto to be. So
yeah, because I'm sure the students are either told that what in the catalog or when they register, you will be auto awarded if you're done, or how do you guys do it, Grace?
We actually don't. We don't tell them in advance. We just look at, we kind of do things a little backwards sometimes. And so what we do is we just, like their process right now, we were just talking about this last Tuesday, they are going through the report and then they are sending them a message with where they were going to send them an actual paper form or like a link to, they could do an Adobe form, but we're turning it into an electronic like web form where they can just type in, yes, I want to be in the program. Because the one thing that the reason why we've always had graduation applications as a requirement in order to graduate or be awarded is because we need to know actual name for the degree. I'm assuming yours is probably a similar issue. Maybe they got married and they changed their name, but they didn't actually change it in our system. We're always going to award what's in our system. And so if they want it to be something different, they need to go through the process of sending us their marriage certificate and update it in our system. And so that's why we have the web form with the auto award. So we tell them, we have this ready to go, but we're not going to print it until we get confirmation back from you.
Okay. Yeah, we do something similar. We actually meet with them like a month or so before graduation and tell them, if you've changed your name, go to DegreeWorks. This is what it's going to look like on your degree or certificate. And then if you owe any money, check your mailing address because that's where it's going. Yeah, all those little things.
I think there's only a couple of cases, like if they were just awarded and they're on our completion report, they will just automatically, and there's another degree that they could have received for whatever reason, they will automatically auto award that and then just tell them instead of requesting information. Yeah. But if it's been beyond the prior term that they were just, that they could have just been awarded from, we have to have that confirmation.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so that's basically how you're opting in. So you're not sending degrees out without first having that contact with the students.
Yeah.
But you're initiating it versus them, which is awesome.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing I can think of, Vicki, that we haven't hit on is just how it's tied to alerts. And I don't know if that even interests you, but the one benefit or one of the benefits of being tied into Starfish is the tracking items. So we could have degree planner specific tracking items that if a student goes off track, they can get a flag, or there's all sorts of different potential items there, like to-dos, apply for graduation, different things tied to that element of it. But.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the way they have off track set up, a lot of that could just be automated. You don't have to do a lot of that build that you do with the other items. So originally it was without having off track notifications set up, we have to export the degree planner data and then pipe it back into Starfish in order to create those tracking items. Mm-hmm. But with off track notification, a lot of that is automated.
Cool.
It is beneficial. It's a little bit of leg room. I mean, I can show you quickly. I don't know that in A&R that you'll really be responsible for building out the programs. I mean, maybe you will if you're the ones that did degree works, but when you're building them out, it is much easier than scribing. I remember doing degree works. It was not fun. So there's a few different ways. I think Kelly probably showed you. There's a couple of different ways you can set it up. We are a guided pathways school. And so naturally we wanted it set up to where a student would select their pathway and then select their program. But that's a real big bear to build a degree planner, honestly, because they have parent and child relationships. So we decided that we were going to forego that idea, and we did it based off of transfer degree. And so all of the transfer degrees are in one block. And then we have our associates of arts and then science. And then we have a bachelor's program, all of our certificates. I built out templates for our early college program in the high schools. We have Finish in 4 as our programs that are attached, which I forgot I haven't undrafted, but they are attached to our local CSU. So they're all CSUB. And then you have your general ed patterns. So that's why when you go in to build a degree planner for a student, the first thing you're asked to do is select their program, which would be one of these up here. And then the second thing you have to select is your general ed. And I have all of my general ed patterns that are built out, but I may have, 8, 9 degree or general ed patterns, but they don't all show up on each degree or in each program because, an associates of arts cannot use our local GE. And so it's nice that when you're in there and you're building one out, you can, in basic settings, you can customize it and say, oh, well, I only want it to have these particular options. This is an associates of arts, not a science, so I don't have science on here. So you have a lot of customization, but then when you're actually building them, the programs, it is simple. You just are gonna, like if I wanted to add a requirement, a single course, you would type in what that course name is, they start populating and you just click on them. Like it is so easy.
Great. I have a question. On your list, it said on your programs, job certificates and other. One of the things that I've been approached by our economic workforce development is if we could do certificates for non-credit, and we don't do that right now. We let the divisions do that and the programs type up certificates because they're not transcripted. We only do what's transcripted, but they're asking for like certificates. Do you guys do that, or is that something different that I'm looking at?
Yeah, we have job skill certificates. These are actually credited. So a student can take the course, receive credit for the course, and then it'll go on their transcript and we will actually print out a certificate for them through our CTE department. Then we've recently started creating a bunch of certificate of completions for non-credit options. And these are also courses that will, if I remember correctly, they do show up on their transcript as well. And they have 0 units because they're non-credit. But they can actually receive a certificate for these as well.
Okay.
And I had to go in and build out each one of these.
And I was thinking that, I was like, Grace, man, you've been busy.
Yeah, see, we have a ton of job skill certificates. So we have to go out and build. But the nice thing is, once you build the first catalog, then Starfish can just roll it over to the new catalog, and you only have to go in and make minor changes to the programs that changed. So that's really nice. I don't have to rebuild it each year. The only thing that was a bear was that we started in 2017. And so then A&R was like, in order for us to move over, we need to have 10 years of catalogs. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I had to go backwards. So that was a bear. Going backwards is not fun. But if you can start as far back as you are willing to go and then just roll forward, it'll be so much easier.
Mm-hmm. And the other programs, were those the ones you were talking about, you guys created just to create those buckets?
Yeah,
Or no?
so we have if a program changes, you can remove it from one of these categories up here and it'll just show up in this like more programs area. But as you see, you can change them to draft mode. The dangerous thing is if you have it undrafted and people use it, when you put it back in draft mode, it'll delete all of those plans. So you really have to be careful about undrafting anything. Once you undraft it, you really need to stay undrafted. But when they roll your catalog to the new year, everything goes into draft mode. Nothing is open until you're ready to open it.
Does have any other questions?
I have a question. So with this, with Starfish, you know how we have the process right now for change of programs? We won't need that process with this.
That's true. How is a change of program done?
How do you do changes of major, Grace? Every school I know we're doing it differently.
Yeah. We do change of majors. How we do it is actually a web form our district office created for us. It's attached to Banner. So when we go into our Ban Web and we do the change of major in Ban Web, and then that pushes over to Banner and updates Banner. And I think it's live. I don't think that's a nightly refresh. I think it does it like on the spot, but it'll update Banner and then it'll update Starfish that night. So you don't actually do any change of programs or change of majors in Starfish. You can create a different ed plan for the student though. So it doesn't matter if they are a psychology major in Banner, but they want to be awarded a sociology degree. You would just come into degree work, a degree planner, and do a degree plan for sociology. It just won't update Banner. The only way to update Banner is we go in and we do that.
What I've seen some schools do, Claudia, is like I think Sierra has done this, is in the attributes, Grace. So on the info page for the students, you know how we can have attributes that are actually links. So it links to the change of major form.
Yeah, you could do that.
So then that way, although it's technically not Starfish, they still would initiate the change of major from within Starfish. So they're all still in the same platform, felt that change of major form. To trigger the processes like you mentioned, but it would be a night process. So any changes in Banner show up the next day. It is not real time. So if there's a major change that I submit right now, you won't see that major reflected on their info page until tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Right. That's the same for us. It does, and in some cases it actually doesn't reflect for 2 days for us, only because we weren't allowed to go off of some tables in Banner. So I don't remember if major is one of them, but some things it might take 2 days because it has to go off of ODS. And if ODS doesn't update in time for the Starfish update, then it gets missed and it gets picked up the next night.
Yeah, we've actually put a lot of time into that part, Grace. So we kicked off our processes earlier so that we can ensure they finish before the Oracle database kicks. And we also prioritize the scripts we're doing. So certain things like new users, majors, those are being processed first.
That's great.
Which has helped. But yeah, it is definitely a juggle when you have so many different batches running at night. So I follow what you said. If anyone else didn't, I get what you're saying. And it could take, if it did not finish in time, then yes, 2 days.
Well, I like what Grace is talking about, like that Ban Web that they have and that it's automatically done. We need to talk to their A&R too, Melody, if we can. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Just pick their brains.
Yeah, again, Grace, if you want to give me a contact information, I can reach out and see if they'd be willing to converse a little bit. But yeah, the auto adjustment stuff, that's all one of those things where I encourage you, and I know it probably drives Cantwell a little crazy. Submit those requests to like Team Dynamics, and because automation is possible, it just takes a while and it's about prioritizing projects. But there is a way for us, since we're consuming the major change data with an Argos form that Alex built, there isn't any reason why we couldn't push it into Banner, but that is a project that we would have to get on the project list.
Grace, before we leave, Dr. Henrico Barrubias said to tell you hello.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
You know, he's our interim vice president, Grace.
I didn't know that.
I didn't tell you that, So he's moving on up in the world.
Yeah, tell him congratulations.
I will.
I
He's
say hi
awesome.
back.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. So yeah, if you want to pass me on that name and give her a heads up, say we're very nice. We just want to see it. And we love working with other schools. It's a give and take because we all can help promote the products and make them better too, because there's power in numbers. So
Yeah, I will do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Nice meeting you, Grace.
Thank
Oh,
you,
you're
Grace.
welcome.